This is quite long, but hopefully it's not too bad considering this wackiness has been going on for over 10 years. I'll sum it up in one neat sentence near the end. First things first though, gotta rip the band-aid off and admit that from late 2001 to mid-2003, when I was a teenager, I wrote fan fiction and posted it online. Now, my stories weren't that great, but I did make some friends because I posted them, so I don't regret doing it. Even after I stopped posting my stories, I was still active online. Instead, I started posting fan art and dumb stuff about the role plays I did with my buddies over on DeviantArt. Yeah, cringe. Maybe I sound like a lame fangirl, but whatever. I was having a lot of fun. Fast forward to 2008 when I got a PM on DeviantArt that was, well, I wasn't expecting online life to take such a strange turn on this particular random day. But the writer Ari began her missive by informing me, a complete stranger, that she was seriously mentally ill. She listed a wide variety of disorders, including schizophrenia, which had tormented her all her life. She then said she was scared to write me like this, but she had to do so she could move on. Move on from what, you might ask? From her hatred of me, of course. Ari wrote that she had hated me for a long time, based on the fanfiction I wrote, because my stories terrified her. Okay, now let's be clear here. I wrote stories about characters from cartoons and one comic book. One of the characters from the comic was a violent and terrible person, and so I wrote about him doing violent and terrible things. But that's not what scared her. No. Ari was scared because she was in love with said violent character, John, and believed they were destined for each other. She even said that he talked to her in her head. Then she read my fanfiction and suddenly John stopped talking to her. She knew it was because he was talking to me instead. She was absolutely certain I had stolen her true love from her. She said that after that she developed a belief that I was the arbiter of her reality, more generally, and that I was capable of reaching into her mind and not only reading but stealing away her thoughts. This caused her so much anguish and suffering. However, she went on. Deep down, I think she knew this was a delusion caused by her mental illness. She closed her PM by begging me to respond to her, to confirm that I was just a normal girl, so she could get past the mental trauma I had caused her and be happy again. Now, I again have to rip the band-aid off, inviting judgment here, by admitting that sometimes I am a complete dumbass. I'm also a soft-hearted person, and the idea that someone could have been harmed by these silly stories I'd posted years earlier, well, that made me kinda sad. So I did a soft-hearted but ultimately dumbass thing, and responded. Yes, I was a normal teenage girl when I posted that stuff, and now I'm a normal early 20s woman. No mind-stealing superpowers. Also, I kinda don't know you and had no idea you even existed until you sent me this, so how could I have singled you out to hurt you with my fanfics? Please don't worry about me. I thought, what a kind person I am. Surely that will be the end of it. Well, wrong. Ari replied to me using a different upbeat and cheerful tone, saying she was so glad I wrote her back because now she knew she didn't have to fear me, and instead we could just be friends. She told me she loved my fanfics honestly, and by the way, what was my real name, so she could search me up on Facebook. Excuse me? No. A dumbass I may be, but I am not that stupid. I told her I didn't have a Facebook, which was a lie, and was busy with school. So I wouldn't be on DeviantArt a whole lot. I wished her good luck with her mental health recovery and hoped she would have a good life. A truth, I mean, so far as she just seemed troubled and weird, but I wouldn't have wished harm on her. I didn't get a response to that, but a few months later, I got a DeviantArt PM from another account I did not recognize. It simply said, "Hey, Fox Got Socks, how do you get your characters to talk for you?" Now, I hadn't posted any fanfiction for years, but I was still participating in fandom and talked online about writing. I honestly thought this question was about writing, specifically how to write dialogue. I mulled over in my head how to respond and ended up not answering right away. I went back to my PMs a few days later and saw another new message. This one saying, with a lot of exclamation points and cry-typing style misspellings, that I had to answer and teach this stranger how to talk to my characters. That I had no idea how long this user had suffered because of me. Oh my goodness, I wonder who this was using another account. And guess what? I was still a goddamn dumbass. So I answered the first message, but sort of detachedly, ignoring the desperation of the second message and just kind of giving general tips for how to learn a character's voice and how to write good dialogue for them. Once again, I got a very chipper reply, including a confession that yeah, it was Ari. She just loved talking to me and thought I was so nice and such a good friend to be patient with her. You see, she told me she had realized she was not in love with just John, but specifically my John from my stupid fanfiction, and now she could talk to him anytime because we were friends. Somehow I got the idea though that she was not asking to roleplay. Instead, she thought she would be able to communicate directly with this once removed fictional character now. I feigned ignorance though and said something like, our RP group is kinda private and not accepting any new members, but I hope I answered your question. Please have a good day. See, I did not really want to be friends with someone who, A, seemed to believe I was somehow responsible for her mental illness despite not even knowing her and having only spoken to her twice, and B, had already told me she hated me and thought I could control all of reality. On the kinder side of things, I honestly didn't think continuing to converse would be good for either of us, to be honest. On the meaner side, I just really didn't want to interact with this person anymore. I felt like I had already done more than enough to help this complete stranger, let me remind you. Okay, so she stopped responding to me. I thought this strange interlude in my life would be over. Wrong. Now fast forward 7 entire years to early July 2015, at which time I had moved my main online presence to Tumblr. I'd left a note on my DeviantArt account in 2011 when I moved, giving my new Tumblr screen name so my fandom buddies could find me more easily. At this point, let me say, I had not posted any fanfiction in over a decade. I was also not talking much at all online about John, except to reblog the occasional post someone else made about the comic he was from, as you sometimes do on Tumblr. Suddenly, gasp, I received an anonymous ask, and that ask said in no uncertain terms that I was the cause of the asker's suffering, and I had callously disregarded others' feelings. It closed with some kind of weird threat. I can't remember exactly what it was now because I was instinctively so startled that I deleted it due to being unnerved. I guess that it could be Ari based on the typing style, and the fact that there couldn't be 2 people in the world who thought I was making them suffer, right? But then again, it had been 7 years, so I wasn't entirely sure. I did yet another dumbass thing. I made a post that said something along the lines of, to the anon who just sent me a vaguely threatening ask, sorry if anything I posted has upset you. Please let me know if I can tag my post in a way so you can block whatever content you find distressing. A couple of days later, I got another anon ask calling me a prattling, ostentatious idiot and saying it doesn't work that way. Strong emotions cannot just be blocked. The message then went on. You stole him away from me, and I've been living in that turmoil ever since, but you don't care. Ah, yes, definitely Ari. There was no question about it. After all, I hadn't stolen anyone else's fictional boyfriend that I know of. I turned off anonymous ass, went back to my old untouched DeviantArt account, where I found a comment on my front page from yet another third account that said, if you still talk to him, tell him that I love him and that I always will. He was the first man I ever loved, and it was your version of him I loved above all. I've been jealous, angry at you, angry at myself, depressed and psychotic. I tore myself to shreds over him, and my heart aches and cries. The first cut is the deepest. I love you, John. The date on this message was June 28, 2015, just a few days before the first Anon Ask on Tumblr. I did a little bit of internet sleuthing and found her Fur Affinity account, where she had posted screeds in her journal about hating anyone else who wrote or drew anything related to that character. Okay. I had also discovered through this Google search that I was apparently not completely special in triggering Ari's ire. She had also gone after other people on Tumblr in much the same way. This other person had amassed a collection of screenshots of her behavior, and it was super not good. Anyway, I figured since I'd blocked Anon Asks, maybe now she'd finally go away. Of course, wrong. Ari's next wave of attacks began in 2016, when someone started suddenly reblogging my personal text posts with cryptic comments like, "You have a beautiful soul." The username was nothing like Ari or any of the other account names she'd used before, so I thought it was just someone being socially awkward. But after a few months of this, I received a message from this account through Tumblr's chat function that let the cat out of the bag. It said something like, "I'm a British female creature and I'm so scared of dying alone and friendless. I used to read your fan fiction and it always made me feel better. I think you're an amazing woman and would like to get to know you better. Please, I'm begging you, don't leave me alone in the dark." Well, that sure sounded a whole lot like Ari to me. This was confirmed when I went to the person's Tumblr and saw they had recently posted something passive-aggressive about another user she was known to stalk. If that wasn't enough, they also had a lot of weird innuendo-laden posts about John and a couple of other characters, including Sherlock and a man I didn't recognize who they claimed to have legally married. At that point, I realized enough was enough. I blocked all the accounts that sent me the messages right away without responding. Over the next several months, Ari attempted to contact others on Tumblr, who it was obvious I talked to a lot. My girlfriend, our best friend, she'd send them chat messages like the one paraphrased above, begging for their friendship, and also, just casually asking what I was doing, whether they could get me to talk to her, that sort of thing. I know my girlfriend and BFF blocked her too after they asked me who the hell this person was, and I told them the whole story. I also discovered that apparently on Tumblr, you can choose the option to allow chat messages only from people you follow. With that account blocked and no one I don't follow able to ever send me chat messages again, I thought that surely this weird nonsense would now end. See, the thing about Tumblr, if you're not familiar with the website, is that if you block someone, they just can't interact with your posts or follow you. A block causes someone to auto-unfollow you, and they won't see your posts on their dash. They also won't be able to send you asks. However, they can still go to your actual blog and see everything you post. If they try to interact with it, they won't be able to, which will, of course, tip them off that you've blocked them. In the beginning of 2018, she engaged in a complete whirlwind of activity. She made new accounts desperately asking her to talk to her. "Please talk to me, I'm so harmless, you don't know how hard it is to be me. I'm so scared of the darkness. Humans are social animals and I am dying without you. I want to kidnap you far away in a happy ending, my darling." I blocked those accounts immediately, so she made a new one and reblogged some post I'd made a while back about that comic book with a comment like, "My first love, the first cut is the deepest," sending me multiple messages saying, "You stole him from me." I blocked that account immediately too, so she made another one, made some meme generators sparkly pictures of rats and spiders with texts like, "I want to sit next to you and be your friend. I promise I'm not scary." She would post them all with @ to my username, so this mention would show up in my activity feed. So I blocked that account, and she made another one, posted a quote from my favorite author, and sent me a couple of asks saying that this author would disagree with how I was treating her by continuing to block and shun her friendship when she was harmless and just thought I was an amazing person. I blocked that one too. Mate, did you forget you called me a prattling, ostentatious idiot and threatened me? Because I sure didn't. That went on for several accounts. One of which even had the blog title in huge letters at the top of Hello, my nickname reserved only for close friends, one of which she inundated with photos of herself glaring at the camera, adding me in each one. She only ever used one of these accounts to actually post, reblog, and like things from other people, seemingly like a normal user. All of the rest only existed to harass me. I started trying to report everything about her after the third or fourth time making multiple accounts solely to evade my blocks. But if you know anything about Tumblr, you can guess that they did not respond with more than an automated, "Okay, I guess we'll look into this. In the meantime, have you tried blocking them?" Anyway, throughout 2018, I just had to deal with the fact that anytime I saw the little red flag, it would probably be something creepy and threatening or passive-aggressive from Ari that would put me on the edge for a few hours and remind me that no matter what I did, she would somehow read everything I post. I haven't gotten anything from her so far in 2019, but I figure as long as she's out there, there's always a chance she will come back. Maybe not right away, maybe not until another 10 years from now. But let me just say this. Ari, you fucking weirdo. I'm genuinely sorry about your mental illnesses and hope you get help for them, but while they may explain some of your behavior, it certainly can't excuse it. I'm not and never will be your friend, because you are not harmless. You've made me heavily curtail my social interaction on everything by cutting off many methods of communication that could have been used to make new friends. You've made me worried about talking about the things I enjoy. You made it so anytime I see I have notifications, my heart rate goes up because it might be more of your disturbing bullshit. You've harassed my loved ones, you've harassed strangers that didn't do anything to deserve it. I don't control your reality, but if I did, you can bet I'd use that power to ensure we'd never meet. I had been sent to Korea from my university a few years ago. They told me for my major I had to go somewhere in Asia, and my friend had really talked up Korea for me. I knew nothing about it whatsoever, but I decided, what the hell? And I embarked on a semester-long trip. I had only had one serious boyfriend in my life who I had just broken up with a few months prior. I also don't enjoy one-night stands and wasn't digging the dudes at the clubs in Seoul. But I still wanted to have some sort of romantic experience, I suppose. My friend recommended I use this dating app to meet English-speaking Koreans. That way I could meet someone and experience the actual dating culture. I thought, I'm young, so why not? I was just so eager to have these new experiences. Maybe it sounds dumb to try dating in a foreign country you know barely anything about, but it worked out for me eventually. Just not on the first date. I met him on a dating app after being in Seoul for about 3 weeks. Let's call him Tim. I still didn't know the culture or the city very well, and I was extremely naive about everything. He eagerly wanted to meet for a date after talking to me, and he seemed very nice. I should have asked more questions. I should have noticed he was not giving me any details about himself. He was a guy a bit older than me, but claimed he was still a college student. I assumed he had done his military time, as all men in Korea have to, and returned to school after. We talked for a bit and decided to meet for a tea date near the school I went to. He wanted to come by my dorm originally to pick me up, but I live in an all-women's dorm, and I didn't want him to know exactly where I lived since we were still pretty much strangers. Instead, I insisted we meet at the main town center near the subway. He really didn't like this idea, which looking back is a huge red flag. But eventually I insisted. The night of the date, I waited for an hour for this guy. He was very late. Tim weirdly claimed he just wanted to make me wait. I thought he was just trying to kid and lighten the mood, so I messaged him a laughing emoji, assuming he was just lost. When he finally arrived, he was much smaller than I'd thought. But hey, man's height has never been something I cared about very much. He was also quite thin as well. Maybe I let my guard down because I didn't see him as physically threatening to me, which was a mistake in the end. Right off the bat, he was way too touchy with me and breathed these really creepy, heavy breaths. I was very put off by this demeanor. I'm usually tolerant with very different personality types, but this was very odd to me. I had been told that Korean men would be very polite and not so touchy on the first date. He was also dressed really oddly, like in business attire. I thought maybe that was just a Korean thing though. Again, I was dumb and knew jack shit about the culture. The very first thing he said to me was, "You're not as white as I thought you were." I thought this must be a translation error, but his English was near perfect, so I asked for clarification. He said what he meant. "I thought you would be more white. Your skin is darker than I thought, and your eyes aren't green either. Are you pure European?" Now I was officially weirded out. First off, I'm pretty much as white as you can get. I'm Irish and Scandinavian, so white as hell basically. The fact that he thought I could have possibly been any whiter was very funny. And why did he care in the first place anyway? What does my skin color matter to this guy, and why is he bringing it up? He said about 3 times on the date how he wished I had greener eyes, and every time I would just reply, "Well, maybe my online photos make me look brighter." I brushed it off as him being nervous and trying to start conversation. Isn't it funny the dumb excuses you make for people when you're really panicked? When we arrived at the tea place, I tried to order a basic raspberry tea. He stopped me and told me I had to have this special tea. I thought it was weird he wanted to choose my drink for me, but in my head I tried to brush it off once again. He really insisted I drink only this tea, and I just agreed. These small details become even weirder in hindsight. After tea, he asked if we could look around my school. It was extremely dark, but the school was well lit, so I agreed. The whole time we walked around, he would try to randomly stop and grab me for these long hugs. At first, I let it happen, but then I stopped him. He would just keep trying though, just keep grabbing me and breathing hard into the back of my neck. It was so weird. He would also not tell me any personal details about himself. I asked him so many questions, desperately trying to distract from all this awkward grabbing and to try and get to know him, but he would never tell me a single thing. He even at one point said, "I'm just a mysterious man," like a movie line. Finally, he said, "I want to go to a dark area." In my head, I screamed, "Fuck no." At this point, I wanted this over fast. He somehow knew there was this completely isolated wooded area behind my campus and said we should go there. I said no, and I wanted to stay near the main campus in town, but he started really pushing. Finally, he just grabbed my arm and started dragging me there. He said to me, "I can't let anyone see this." And I started to panic. I ripped my arm away and demanded to leave and go back to the main road immediately. Looking back, I don't know why I didn't ask for help or get angry. I guess I was too scared. I just began to book it back to the main road, and he followed behind me. We ended up in front of a hospital near the center of town, where I finally told him it was time for him to go. I made some excuse, but he was pleading with me to stay. I told him maybe we could meet the next day, obvious lie, and I would message him. I just wanted to get away at this point. I was pretending it was all okay so he would just leave. Suddenly, I think he's leaning in to kiss me. I immediately think, oh God, no. But it was so much worse than a kiss. Instead, I immediately felt a sharp pain in my face. It took me a second to realize, but he was biting my face. Like a dog. I had never felt something like that before. He leaned his head sideways and bit into my nose and cheek as hard as he could. I screamed and pushed him away from me. His face looked so freaky, and I barely had time to react in words. Instead, I ran up the sidewalk until I saw a convenience store on the right. I ran to the back of the store and bent down to start crying. The man who owned the store started to yell at me, but I couldn't explain my situation adequately. I begged him in English to let me stay. I ended up having to buy a popsicle just to stick around. God, I wish I had learned some Korean by then. I guess Tim didn't follow me. I peered outside the store and didn't see him. I texted a friend and waited for them to come take me back to my room. On the way, I messaged Tim and basically told him to stay the hell away from me. I told him he was a creep. What the fuck was that about biting me in the face? And something along the lines of me calling the police for an assault. Then I blocked him. I was so scared to walk around my school area after that. I was afraid he would find me somehow. I'm thankful I never let him pick me up at my dorm. I called my mom to tell her what had happened when suddenly she said, "Wait, what did he ask you?" Then she put the details together and realized all these weird things had to do with 50 Shades of Grey apparently. At first, I thought she was just being silly and overthinking a bad date. I thought she was joking, but on further introspection, oh god, she was right. She had recently seen the movie or read the book or something and knew the details. The eye color, the way he dressed, the special tea he made me drink, those random lines he said, it all matched the books and movies for his dirty little fantasy. My mom thinks he picked me because I look like the girl in that movie to him. It explains why he was so fixated on my appearance, and his whole thing with the biting and trying to dominate me, even if it wasn't his intention. I later learned that apparently there are creeps who seek out foreign girls to dominate and have sex with like a prize. They call it riding the white horse or something along those lines. On a happier note though, this bad experience didn't stop me from dating. I eventually met someone else in Korea, and we ended up falling in love. We even did the whole long distance thing, and I'm now living in Korea studying and working, hoping to marry him soon. So I guess the moral is, don't let bad, creepy guys ruin and stop your life. This was in 2004, when I was 20 and living in a small 2-level apartment on the main floor of a building. Out front there were 3 stairs, then a deck, then 3 more stairs to the front door. Add another little narrow deck that ran the length of the front of my apartment, which beside the door was all windows. The main floor was this tiny kitchen/living room, and a door to the hallway for laundry and parking access, all of which was completely visible from the windows. It was fall in Western Canada during daylight savings, so pitch black early and surprisingly warm for the season. I had all my windows open and hadn't closed the blinds so a breeze could get in. I was talking on the phone to my sister. I had my back to the windows, and when I turned around, I thought I saw something weird outside. It was really bright inside, so I turned the main light off, only to see a man pressed against the window, staring at me. I screamed and told my sister a man was on the deck looking at me. As soon as he noticed I'd seen him, he seemed to take off into the darkness. I turned off all the lights inside, put the outside ones on, and was babbling to my sister like, holy shit, a peeping Tom, so scary, I can't believe it. All of a sudden he just walked right back up to the main deck. I screamed again. "He's back, I have to call 911. I hung up and did. He pressed his face against the window. It was still open. The windows were floor to ceiling with screen cranked open bottom sections that I had to open to the max and could for sure accommodate a determined person crawling in. He could hear me and see I was calling 911, but he didn't do anything. I had crouched down in the dark room and the main light was off so he couldn't see where I was. But I had the lights on beside the door to the hallway and on the stairs to the bedroom. I didn't want to move and let him know where I was. I should have run into the hall and banged on a neighbor's door, but I was in shock. After all, the cops were coming from a station only 10 blocks away, so surely they'd get here soon, right? The 911 operator said this: "We can't find your address. I'm directly behind the rec center at X and Y. Corner unit, unmistakable area landmark, and the only apartment building there." The man at the window starts banging on the glass. I can hear him whispering to me. I was whispering, but I assume he heard me give panic directions repeatedly, and we both can't hear the sirens. I felt like this would go on forever, when he finally just ran off. I peeked out to see a police car, so I told the operator they were here. Then the car started to drive away. The operator told me to go outside and flag them down. I don't know why I actually did because I was scared shitless. When I did though, they rolled down their window. Ma'am, do you need help?" "Oh, you're looking for me, I think? I just called 911. "Oh, we were just driving by, but what's the problem?" They never found the man that looked in on me and made me feel so unsafe that I moved. But it was truly the cops not even being able to find the only apartments behind a notable building that completely shook me. Frightening end note? When I moved out, they tried to charge me because the downstairs screens were shredded from my cats. The screens were pristine the day the creeper showed up, and that was the last time I opened the downstairs windows or blinds, or even used the front door. The property manager laughed and mocked me, and called BS when I said someone cut them, until I showed her the police report. She lived there too, and after that, well, suddenly it was not so funny. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed the content of this video, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. If you do decide you like my content enough to subscribe, please be sure to hit the bell button right next to the subscribe button and turn notifications to all so you can be notified of every video I post in the future. If you don't feel like doing that though, I post a video nearly every day, so you can just come back every now and then and check up on what you missed. If you guys have any criticisms on what I can do better or any feedback on the stories in the video, please be sure to leave them in the comments below, as I always enjoy reading all the comments and I try to give them hearts and respond when I can. If you guys would like to reach me for any reason, or you would like to send in a story to be read, you can go ahead and take a look in the description below the video. You'll find a link to all of my social media, including my Facebook, Gmail, and Twitter accounts. Go ahead and send me a message on any of those, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include in the tagline what the name of the story is if it has one, what type of story it is if it has a theme, and how you would like to be credited in the description of the video the story appears in. Last but not least, I also run two other channels, Mr. Blue Skies and Darkest Hour, where I do true crime videos and dark documentaries respectively. If that kind of content sounds interesting to you, why not go ahead and check it out and see if it is for you. Aside from that though, guys, I think that's pretty much it for now, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.